sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K, 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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K, 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 S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. With Tony Marinaro.
55 seconds left in the penalty, a minute and 27 seconds left in regulation time. Boston 4, Montreal 3. Lafleur coming out rather gingerly on the right side. He gives it into Lemaire, back to Lafleur. Oh!
The sickest Montreal Canadiens podcast.
You're in the spot!
Sports entertainment like no other.
Rejoint, on lui fait perdre la rondelle, une passe devant. Et c'est le dégagement et ce sera la victoire des Canadiens. Coupe Stanley pour les Canadiens. Le 23e de l'histoire.
You found the dogs! John, you found the dogs! He found the dogs! And all together, they worked a young team to the top. And now, a 24th Stanley Cup banner will hang from the rafters of the famous Forum in Montreal. The Canadiens win the Stanley Cup.
Brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Driven to be different. La Vida Tibi. Embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination. It's gonna be sick.
Marinaro, it is the Sick Podcast, and it is brought to you in part by Playground. Experience the world-renowned poker experience with free food and drinks at their cash game tables. A bad beat jackpot that is already over $700,000 after the world record-setting amount of $2,590,000 won back on August 2nd. Weekly promotions, daily tournaments, unmatched customer service. Why play anywhere else? Located just over the Mercier Bridge, only minutes from downtown Montreal. Playground. Also brought to you by La Bittt at Tibi, brewed in Quebec, a winner of a dozen international awards. La Bittt at Tibi offers quality microbrewery beers made with premium ingredients for everyone's taste. La Bittt at Tibi, embrace your true nature. And brought to you in part by Energy Transportation Group, named by the Financial Times as one of America's fastest growing companies in 2023 and recognized by the Globe and Mail as a top growing Canadian company for 2 years in a row. They work with some of the biggest Fortune 500 companies providing end-to-end logistics services. Join a winning team and check out Energy's career page for available opportunities. Tonight's show is truly a pleasure. They all are, and always a privilege. But it's a while that I haven't touched base with the former coach of the Montreal Canadiens. And what's different this time around is he is now the assistant coach of the Vegas Golden Knights. Dominique Ducharme, bonsoir. Comment ça va?
Hey, Tony, how are you?
Very good. How are you?
I'm good, really good.
I would imagine you were really good, especially on July 12th when the news came out that you were named as one of the assistant coaches of the Vegas Golden Knights. Coach, congratulations on that. Tell me how long it was in the works and how it came about.
I started really quick after the Stanley Cup. We started talking maybe a couple of days after. Obviously, they were pretty busy celebrating and everything else, and then the draft and the development camp. So through that, we had a few talks, and I was really excited to join the Golden Knights and looking forward to it.
They couldn't contact you the day before the Stanley Cup final. This way you could have had a picture with the cup.
Well, I mean, my goal is to get one hopefully next year or in the near future, yeah.
Coach, we know it's a very small world, and we know that people in all circles of life, and in all walks and all avenues, but especially in the world of sports, they like to surround themselves with people that they either know because they know their character or they know their ability or they know they can trust them. They know that they will be loyal to them. Usually that's somewhat of the in. What was your connection at all with Vegas? Was there any?
With Bruce, not at all. I mean, I met him a couple times, but that was it. Obviously, I worked with Kelly McCrimmon at the World Juniors in 2016. We were both assistant coaches at the time. And when they were looking for an assistant coach, Kelly brought my name up to Bruce. But talking with Kelly, he told me, it's going to be Bruce's decision. So obviously, I think Kelly has some good words for me.
Oh, that's pretty cool, eh?
Yeah, but that was Bruce's decision after. So we had a good talk. We interviewed and we talked for a while, and then like I said, those guys went for, they went to Nashville for the draft. And then obviously in a situation like this, Bruce went around and talked to people that he knows that he's got confidence in about me. And then I guess they were saying some good things because when he called me back, he said, everyone I'm talking to, everything is positive. Everyone's talking about you a great way, and I want you to be joining us. And
Wow,
that
amazing.
that was a really pleasant news. And the next day, I talked to Kelly about about the contract and stuff, and then soon after it was done. So it was quite quick. At the same time, knowing where they were at the moment with winning the Stanley Cup and everything that they had to do. I needed to stay patient, but it went pretty quick, and really happy about the opportunity and the situation. I'm coming back. I'm really pleased with all that.
Isn't that something? You work with somebody in 2016, and 7 years later, they're in a pretty big position, the position of general manager, and they're able to put in a word for you for work they remember that you were doing and able to do back 7 years ago. And, that's the opportunity. And obviously after that, there was quite a bit of work to be done, like you said, with you and Bruce, to see if you were going to connect, see if you were going to be on the same page, to see probably if you saw the game the same way. I'm curious, how does that interview go? Is it as professional as they come, or is it as casual and relaxed? Is it a conversation like two guys having a coffee in a bar? How, what do you talk about, and how long does this conversation last?
Yeah, it's a little bit of both. Obviously, we in those situations when you're the head coach, you want to know about how the person is thinking, the way he's seeing the game and things like that. But also you want to know the person because we spend so much time together in the office, on the road, preparing for games, in games, after games, on the plane. We spend more time together than we do with our family during the season. So it's important to get along with the person and also have the trust that the person will help you out, help you on the hockey side, and the way you do things, and can this work together and match. And so it lasted I don't know, a little bit more than an hour, but we spoke more than once. But that time probably around an hour or so.
By phone, by Zoom, how exactly?
Yeah, that by phone. By phone, like I said, they were pretty. It was quick because they were busy. They were when the first time I talked to them, I think it was the day before the parade. So they had that the next day, and then quickly after they needed to go to Nashville. So it was tough. They didn't make me fly to Vegas or Nashville. We had that discussion, and then Bruce went on his side and really did his homework and asked around, about me. And then we spoke again, and then finally, he came back and said that you're the guy that I want to be joining our team. And I was really pleased because it's a good situation for me. I knew I needed to take a step back, and coming back with a coach like Bruce that went through about the same thing that I did when he was in Washington. He had a little bit of a it took him some time before coming back and being a head coach in the NHL with Boston. So in between, he had to fight adversity. So for me to be going with a guy like that, that now has a great career, it's kind of an inspiration, and he's got experience. He's a good coach. Working with John Stevens, that has been a head coach with Philly and LA. A lot of experience. Again, I think I'm gonna keep growing as a coach, and also I feel that I can, put a little bit of mine in their success and
Yeah.
help the team, challenge for another cup.
So it set the tone for, of course, La Classique, Dominique Ducharme. 8 days later, you show up to your golf tournament with a contract in hand. You're back in the National Hockey League. You're an assistant coach. You're pretty happy. We have some beautiful pictures from the day's event here, if we can bring them up. My buddy Roger Brulot of Le Journal de Montréal was on site. And there you see, of course, look, some usual suspects we can tell. Guillaume Latendresse and Alex Burrows. And there's more. Hold on a second. Let's go. Joel Bouchard, of course. And there's Elisabeth Rancourt that I recognize from TVA Sport. And look, there's some more pictures. Look, we'll bring them up. And here we go. There's my buddy Jean-Charles Lajoie. There's Mario Tessier that I recognize. Okay, let's go. There's more. Okay, here's some more pictures. There's Steve Bégin that I recognize, of course. And there's some more here. I'm going to bring up some more. Look, here's some more pictures. Do we have any more? So, okay, so there were many golfers and there were so many celebrities and so many members of the media. There was one who was missing for whatever reason. I don't know.
Are you talking about yourself, Tony?
I don't know.
I think you were invited.
But you and I were so close. We have each other on speed dial all the time. And
but I remember, and what the answer I got back is I'm not a big fan of golfing, right?
You know what? So Jean-Charles Lajoie gave me a call and he said, hey, j'ai parlé avec Dom, puis il dit, aimerais-tu aller sur tournoi? J'ai dit, I said, Jean-Charles, I'd be honored to go, but what kind of tournament is it? Like, is there just golf or is there like other things? He said, no, well, it's a day of golf. So I said, I'm not going to lie to you. I don't know how to play golf. So if it's just for golf, no, but then I heard there was food, there was a buffet, and that clearly is down my
But next year you gotta come.
Okay,
it's a golf day, but we need some marshals on the board, and doing some PR.
Okay,
and I think a guy like you and Jean-Charles are pretty good at entertaining the golfers, and I think you would do a great job there.
I'd be more than happy. Thank you very much, Coach. And thanks for being a good sport. I was playing with you, and yes, the invite did come, so thank you, Coach. I was really happy for you, obviously, that you were able to get back to the dance. My question to you, and that is the National Hockey League. At one point, were you at all concerned? Because when you're relieved of your duties, the normal thing for people to say is this didn't work out or that didn't work out. And sometimes it's the last thing on people's minds when basically 1 year before you coach your team to a Stanley Cup final. People tend to forget that because they always remember right at the end. Were you at all concerned that some of those things that people were concerned about that kept on coming up would hinder your way back to the National Hockey League?
Yeah, at some point, yeah, for sure. I mean, you never know, right? And when you take a step back, you don't know how people are going to react and what's going to be the next opportunity. But I always stay confident in the fact that I've done some pretty good things before coming to Montreal, and I think as an assistant, I did my best helping out, and we had some parts where we had success, the other where it was tougher, and then being a head coach and going to the final, and the situation the next year. I think people in hockey at the same time, they realize and they understand that there are ups and downs, and they understand also situations. But until it's signed and until you really know where you're going and what's going to be the next opportunity. Yeah, there's always, there's always a side that wonders what's going to happen. But I stayed confident, and I knew I was going to be coaching this year. I was going to be behind the bench somewhere for sure, and I'm really happy to have that opportunity with Vegas, because I think first, like I said before, working with Bruce and John and the whole organization and where the team is at right now, and really challenging for another cup and trying bringing back pretty much the same team that was on the ice in the Stanley Cup final, beside one player. That's exciting, and everything, all that together is. I'm really pleased. There's always ups and downs and doubts in between, but it's part of the job and it's part of adversity. And I always think that I always taken adversity as a head on, and really I'm not shying away from anything, and that was something that I faced for the first time, and I learned a lot on myself. I learned a lot also looking at everything that has been going on in hockey, not only in the NHL but everywhere in the game, in Europe and everything. So I took that time off to really try to make myself better in another way than I did before.
Okay, so that time off, if I can, all right?
Yeah.
The time off you had, did you have a game plan? Did you say, okay, I got some time off here. I'm going to take some time to A, look in the mirror, B, just relax and decompress, and in no particular order, C, maybe try to reinvent myself a little bit, either as a person and or a professional. What was the plan?
Well, the plan was taking a step back, like my last few seasons in juniors, I was doing the World Juniors. So, we would start, my season would start at the end of July with the summer camp, and then come back, and then quickly you get into training camp, and then Christmas time, So it was pretty busy. And then, the last few years in the NHL, when I was there, is COVID, right? There was a bubble in Toronto, and then the crazy season with the Canadian division that we ended up playing until July 7th in the Stanley Cup final, and then starting right back in September. So yeah, it was good to take a step back. That was one thing. I was not in a rush last summer about finding opportunities. I was open to it. I was not in a rush. My plan was to really come back this year.
If it wasn't going to be in the National Hockey League, where was it going to be? Because you said you knew you were coaching.
Yeah.
You had nothing more to gain in the queue. I think you did your share of bus rides and you did your share of winning, but were you willing to take a couple of steps back if you had to take several steps forward afterward?
Yes, for sure. It could have been in the AHL as a head coach. It could have been even in Europe in some good leagues with like solid organization. I was not, close to that. Like I was not. My mind was open, like on many things. My focus, my main goal was to be back in the NHL, and I had many talks around the league, but the best opportunity and the best situation, and everything that happened with Vegas was really something that was perfect for me. So
let's, if we can, I want to talk about a couple of bumps in the road before we talk about a great road ahead. I remember at the time when one of your former players, a defenseman, made public comments on the record about the lack of structure in which the team was playing. Whether the intentions were bad or the intentions were good, the way it came out is the way it came out. It doesn't make a coach look good. I remember being upset with the player myself because I said to myself, if anyone's going to criticize the coach in Montreal, it's me. That's my job. I'm joking, by the way. That was a joke. That player at the time was not playing good hockey. You, as his coach, never came out in public and criticized that player for the way he was playing. But he came out and criticized the system and the structure that was. I know you tried to downplay it at the time, and you might even still feel the same way today. Between you and I, did it hurt you?
Yeah, for sure. And, but when you read it and when you listen to it, he says that it seems that we're lacking structure and everything. And then, a minute later or 30 seconds after, he says, we know where we need to be going, but it seems that we're not going there. So I think, I don't think it was an attack on me. I think Jeff, at the time, it was a difficult time for him. He away from his family and everything else. And we spoke about that the next day. We had, a good discussion. And I never felt that it was directed to make us look bad or everything, or toward his teammates so that, they would look bad or anything like that. I think.
Did you tell him it hurt you?
Oh, he knew. He knew. I think he understood. But I think, it was a tough time for him and everything else. Mm-hmm. And like we said, he was not playing well. And for me, it was more a panic statement. Somebody that is not feeling good about himself. He's not feeling good about our team. We're not playing well right now. And he wants things to change. Was it the right way? I don't think so. I told him. But it was quick after that. It was quick after, behind us. Once we had that talk, once we settled that, it was quick behind. And, I had no problem. And I don't think he had any problem working with me every day.
The second and third bumps in the road were, the season that was, which was a lot more losses than it was wins. And Cole Caulfield going into an extensive scoring slump. Here's a guy who has scored his whole life before arriving at the National Hockey League level. And even though he's a very young player, a lot of people expect him to score right away. And he went in an extensive slump. I believe he had a goal in 30 games or something like that. And then all of a sudden, a new coach comes in and boom, Cole Caulfield explodes. So the naysayers are going to say, you see, he was holding him back. And the other one, he let him fly on his own wings. When you were watching, no longer as the coach, and you saw him scoring the way he was scoring, were you like, man,
I wish for sure. I mean, we talk about wins, wins and losses. I would have taken more goals for sure. But, we have to look back and understand. I mean, Cole came out of college. He had a great season. He went a little bit in Laval at the time.
Yeah.
Then we brought him to Montreal, finished the season with us. I think he scored 3 or 4 goals in 10 games, 2 in overtime, 3 on 3. We started the playoff. We wanted Cole to keep adjusting, and he didn't play the first 2 games. And then he came back in the lineup, and we knew at one point he would be back, and it was just part of the process. And I think
it's easier to trust more experienced players, right? Especially when you get to the playoffs. Is that it?
No, but at the same time, it's a different beast. And this just for a guy to take a step and take a look before he comes in, and it's not the same game in the playoff. And we knew when we didn't start him that within one game or two games he would be back in our. For us, it was, we're starting like this, like we at the time we had like a week or so to prepare for the first game of the playoff. We were injured before. We had time to get healthy. We're starting with the guys that brought us there, that played most of the year.
It was almost predetermined. It was mapped out already. The first couple of games was already mapped out, and then we'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens. We come out of Toronto. It's 1-1. It's not a bad situation. We bring Cole back at home.
Yeah.
And then from there, he didn't score crazy, but he had good playoffs. He scored his first goal against Vegas in the Vegas series.
Yeah,
but
I remember that.
He did well against Toronto. I think he, without scoring, he made a few plays, had some points, good assists, and so on. And he just kept getting better, right?
That's when I think Lehner said, like Cole Caulfield, he always goes glove side, and he beat him glove side or something.
He did, yeah.
Right? Or was it glove side or five side? It was something like that, right?
No, glove side. Eye on the glove side. So, like everyone else, Cole had a short summer, and he went back and he was a Hobie Baker winner, and he was busy that summer, and then none of our players came back in a great shape. And when you get an athlete out of his cycle of training and preparing and coming back, it's always tougher in any sports. Just cut down on a guy running a marathon, give him 2 weeks to prepare instead of 2 months.
Yeah.
Different, right?
Yeah.
So when Cole came back, we played the red and white game, and just skating around in warm up, he just hurt his shoulder in the warm up, and he had no training camp. So confidence for a goal scorer is a big thing. And he started the season, came back just before the start of the season. He had a rough start, and I was sitting with him and trying to, just to keep him positive, because, I often talk with him about, looking at Hughes in New Jersey that he's a good friend of, how it took him some time to establish himself. It's not easy.
4 years.
And talking about that, and before I left, he got COVID. He went back home for about, and I think it was part of the All-Star break also at the same time. So I think he had 2 or 3 weeks at home where he rested and he trained. He went back to college, and he had Armia with him, and they trained and skated. And when he came back,
I remember that. Yeah,
he came back, and there was one game. And that game, I remember Cole having a 2-on-1. He missed the net. He had a few opportunities. He didn't score.
Okay.
But the next game he scored. I mean, I think Marty, is doing a good job with those guys. He's Marty's my friend, so I have nothing wrong to say about it. But as a coach, you always want your player to be,
of course,
bringing everything they got. Like if he's a goal scorer, I want him to score. Like I was not holding him back. I find that a little bit like it's a bad coincidence. I remember going to Guy Lafleur's when he passed and
the service. Yeah, you saw Cole there at the staircase. Yeah, nice
I went to
handshake.
see Cole, and I told him, I'm really happy the way you finished the year, and everything. I'm happy for those guys. I mean,
yeah,
you got a good relation. I think it's and that's it. And I'm sure if you ask Cole, it's going to be pretty much the same story.
Yeah, it's several times that obviously you were asked about what happened in that year after making it to the Stanley Cup final, and you've been very consistent with saying we had a very short summer. That's number one. Number two, you obviously couldn't imagine Shea Weber not coming back and Carey Price entering the players' assistance program and then not returning until like a handful of games left in the season. Phil Deneau leaves for Los Angeles. You had a bunch of injuries. You couple that with the short summer. Having said all that, and even though everything is legitimate, when you're in the dance, sometimes you're caught in the middle of everything. And when you're out of it and you take a chance to look at the big picture, breathe a little bit easier. My question to you is there anything you would have done differently anywhere along the lines in that season, or for the reasons I mentioned, it wouldn't have mattered? You guys were cooked.
Yeah, for sure. There's many things I would have done differently, but would it make a big difference?
Just name me one, and then we'll move on.
No, at one point, going to the final was great. It was a fantastic experience. It was people around, the excitement. The fans are so passionate about the team and everything else. But coming back, obviously
it was fun to do radio back then too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And coming back, the expectations were, well, now, I mean, they're going to be challenging again, right? Because they went and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's one thing, once it started going south a bit with the injuries, many things, right? I would have for sure tried to find a way to release the pressure on the players and even on myself, and enjoy the game more, enjoy being at the ring. It became hard because we're competitors too. So that's one thing. There's other things, but also there are things every year. Like if you don't do that as a coach, you stop progressing, right? And I won't go in everything, but trying to have the players a little bit more relaxed and having fun, even if it's hard, because the main goal is still to be winning games. I would have changed a few things and try to do it differently, and maybe even change something up that maybe has not that big of an impact on to the game that I believe. But just to do something different and just to try to get the guys to be light and forget about the bad spin that we're in.
A shout out to Murphy Clinic, an aesthetic clinic specializing in medical aesthetic care. They offer permanent laser hair removal as well as a wide range of treatments for skin problems such as acne, rosacea, fine lines, and more. They currently have 2 clinics, one located in Montreal Shop Angus and the second on the North Shore in Terrebonne. They're also opening soon in Quebec City. Visit murphyclinic.ca or on Instagram at Murphy Clinic. Okay. This is going to be the last of the difficult conversation, and then we're going to go in a different direction. This is not going to be an easy one, but I'm going to have to go there. A woman claims, as you know, she was sexually assaulted by 8 Canadian Hockey League players, 5 of which were members of the 2017-2018 World Junior team, a team that you coached. She claims she was sexually assaulted while intoxicated. Hockey Canada Foundation Gala and golf event back on June 2018. And since then, there are some reports that Hockey Canada wanted to settle out of court. But there are also reports now that any day now, the names of those 5 players that were involved in whatever happened will come out, and there will be some sanctions. My question to you is, were you interviewed? I imagine you were, on what you knew, what you didn't know, and how many times were you talked to, and when was the last time you had a chance to talk to somebody about this?
I've been interviewed 2 or 3 times. I've been interviewed by the lawyers that were employed by Hockey Canada right after. shortly after to try to get to know the story, like everyone on the team did. The NHL came down and talked to me, and like they talked to, I think, every players and coaches. Again, the lawyers from, I think it's Hockey Canada again, but yeah, so I did like 3 times. You know what? I'm happy. I don't know much about it. To be honest, I don't know who those guys are, and I'm happy about that because I don't want to know. Like, I'd rather not know. And when they have something to say, and when they have a report on it, well, I'll see it, and that's it.
When was the last time somebody spoke to you about that? When you said you had a chance to talk to the lawyers, is this a long time ago?
Probably like 6-7 months ago.
6-7 months ago.
Yeah.
All right.
So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if and when it's going to come out, if it's going to come out, how it's going to come out. It's a delicate situation for sure. And it's too bad. You know what? Because it was a great moment for us to be on the ice that day, but now for sure we're a little bit like everyone is associated with that.
Yeah.
And not our gold medal.
Yeah.
And I understand. I'm a father, and I understand the young girl and everything else. I sympathize with everyone around her, with her, and hopefully, we can move forward once the report is out and everything is, that has to be done is done.
Hey, and we're probably a couple of minutes left here, but in end, I know you said you had to work on yourself while you were away. My people tell me that that you visited my motherland at one point. Is that true or not? Did you visit Italy or?
Went in Europe. I slid by.
You slid by.
Really close, very close. But I love your country. I love your country.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean,
you were in France, though, were you not? Were you in France?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I was. But there was one year that Milan was playing in our league, so we were playing in Milan. We were going like a couple times a year.
Yeah.
So it was good to be there, and it was a great rivalry at the same time.
Yeah.
They had a lot of Canadians on their team, so they had a good team. And
Milan, Bolzano, there's some Canadians. I'm more of a Southern Italy kind of guy over Northern Italy, but they don't play too much hockey in Southern Italy, I'll tell you that. Hey, what did you do to reinvent yourself even a little bit? Because, when you have some free time, you say, okay, you know what? I got to work on this. I got to work on that. Are you one to take part in a lot of seminars? You brought up Marty St. Louis' name before, right? So I had a chance at one point just having a very, very quick chat with Marty. And I talked to him about exchanging ideas, whatever. Coach, he said, no, I don't like to do that. So he doesn't like to exchange ideas. Or do you like to exchange ideas?
I like to do that. I was invited, a lot to be part of clinics and stuff like that. But I like talking to coaches, other coaches. But at the same time, I won't be like the one phoning guys and just talking and just but there's a few guys that I stay in touch with, and we talk about different situations and about hockey, but also about management and stuff like that. And also, like I said, I watch a lot. I watch a lot of hockey, for sure. The NHL. I was watching maybe 2 games a night, right, every day.
Yeah.
And during the day, I was on my computer looking at the Swiss League, the German League, the Champions League in Europe.
Yeah.
And looking at everything, and I think for sure there are some people that along the way helped me a lot, like guys like Bob Hartley and things like that, where I had the chance to spend time with them. But I also learned a lot watching and picking up little things here and there and making it, adapting it to my personality and the way I like the game to
I
be
understand.
played.
I understand.
So I did a little bit of all of that. Yeah.
Hey, every time a team wins the Stanley Cup, people look at it and say, this is why they won, right? There's many reasons, but they did this really well. It's almost like trying to find out the recipe to the caramel bar, right? Everyone really wants to know. Is there anything last year's Stanley Cup final with Vegas winning it that showed you, that opened your eyes, and you look at it? Because usually a lot of people look at the Stanley Cup finalists and say, okay, that's the blueprint. This is what we have to copy. Did you learn anything from the Stanley Cup final and Vegas ultimately winning it?
Well, that was one part of the interview. When I talked to Bruce, he asked me about what was the difference, what I saw, what did I see that was different between 2021 when we beat them, and last year, and you can see it was almost the same team, right? I mean, obviously there's always guys in and out, but they played different. They played different, and the way they played this year, really, the engagement on the defensive side was a lot more, for me, a lot more prominent. Like a lot more engagement there, a lot tougher to play against.
That's a big defense, with Martinez and Pietrangelo and McNabb and Theodore and.
But the way they played, not only those guys on defense. You're right about the group of defensemen, but the way they were playing with 5 guys, without the puck, and the same, with the puck, how they were in the block of 5 all the time.
Yeah,
and that was for me something different than what we seen in 2021, where they were really focused on breakouts and rush and transition. Really just on that, and our game plan against that was, we wanted to make sure we wanted to make them feel uncomfortable and get out of that, right? And I thought this year they were a lot more complete.
You know what I took out of that, coach, is that their fourth line reminded me of the prototypical fourth lines of the 90s that provided some energy, some crash, some bang, some finishing your checks. Because at one point, the National Hockey League went towards more, we could even put skilled players on a fourth line. And I think they went back to more of like, the Devils' fourth line or the Red Wings' fourth line back in the day. Am I wrong?
No, you're right. But you look at those guys and they still scored some goals. But the kind of goals that are scored in the playoffs and the season, are different. And the style of play that they have with their fourth line, I remember a game against Dallas where they started the game and quickly scored, and I think they scored 2 or 3 goals in the game and really had a big impact. I think it's being to be able to build a team that is good enough to be part of the playoff.
Yeah,
but also can adapt and play playoff hockey when it's time. And I think in 2021, we were not maybe the team that for the regular season that was built like great for the regular season, but we were a better playoff team.
I hear you, and I agree with you.
And I think that's where you need to find the right balance to be able to be in the playoff every year. Yeah. But also when you get there, to be able to adapt your game and be playing playoff hockey. And that's, I think, really, that's something that Vegas did really well.
Wrapping up, there's one picture. If there's one picture that really caught my attention this summer, it was one that was put on social media about a month ago from former VP of Communications of the Montreal Canadiens, Paul Wilson. Look at this, huh? Yeah. That looked like a nice night, huh? I could have. There were a few stories going out that night, or what?
Oh yeah, but Paul is such a awesome guy, and Mark was in Montreal for a few days, and Paul invited us, and at one point he showed up and he had his T-shirt on. And he said, "I want to take a picture," And, we had such a great run. It was a great time. And we were all so invested into that. It was a great night, but remembering some, a great run in the playoffs.
Tell me one thing that you talked about. I understand it was a private conversation. Tell me one thing.
Oh my God!
Did my name come up at all, or what? There's another event I wasn't invited to. You have a golf tournament, you don't invite me. Paul has a pool party, I don't get invited.
You have to talk to Paul. He's the PR guy that's making the invitations. But we talked about everything, but we didn't talk only about hockey. We were talking about everything. And
how's Mark doing? How's Mark doing? Il va bien?
Yeah, he's good, doing good. And you built relationship, right? When earlier we talked about Bruce and everything else, and getting to know me. Yes, for sure, there's always the business side, but there's a personal side because we spend so much time together. Mm-hmm. And what we did too, we did it through the bubble. We did it without being able to leave the hotel, not being able to go anywhere. So we spent even more time than usual because we couldn't go anywhere. And that's something.
That's why there was no tent or no gazebo at Paul's house. You guys did not want to be.
Oh yeah, no bubble. I don't want to have anything above my head. No.
Hey, in ending, 10 seconds here. What are you going to be your responsibilities with the Vegas Golden Knights?
I'm going to be working with the forwards. I'm going to be working on the offensive side of the game, and I'm going to be pre-scouting the other teams, things like that. And I'm going to be working on the power play with Bruce.
Working with Jack Eichel and Mark Stone and Jonathan Marchessault and William Karlsson, and doing it in Vegas, as they say, y a pire d'envie, huh?
Yeah, no, I'm really happy about it. And you know what? For a long time, for the first time in a long time, I won't be having to shovel some snow, so that's okay I'm okay with that.
Are you, even though you love coaching, are you somewhat relieved that it's an assistant coaching job? It's less pressure, or is this coming at a good time in your life? No?
I mean, I'm really happy with the situation.
Yeah.
And being a head coach, I'm really in the present, and I'm not, I don't have a timeline, but I want to do it again. And, there's always a question of timing and everything else. If it would have happened this summer, for sure I would have taken it, and I would have been, really excited about it. But, one day, and right now I'm really happy with the situation.
A golf tournament that raised about $140,000 for La Jeunesse in Joliette. Named as assistant coach with the Vegas Golden Knights about 8 days before that. Sounds like you had a fantastic summer. I'm happy for you. Thank you. I kept you a little bit long. I apologize. I don't get the chance to speak to you every day. It's always a privilege. I took a little bit of advantage of it. Thank you very much for your cooperation tonight. I really appreciate it.
Always a pleasure, Tony.
Merci beaucoup. There you have it. Former head coach of the Montreal Canadiens and assistant coach of the Vegas Golden Knights, Dominique Ducharme. I hope you enjoyed the podcast tonight as much as I did. If you did and you liked it, like it on YouTube, share it with your friends, comment sick, S-I-C-K. If you're going to listen to it on Apple, leave us a 5-star review. It's our way of feeling the love. And if you don't like me very much, leave me a 5-star review anyway. Why? Because I'm a pretty nice guy. And by all accounts, so is Dominique Ducharme. For Shane Gaumont and Agnello, Sammy, and Juliana back at Master Control, they're Cavallaro. This is the Sick Podcast, the one and only Sick Podcast. I'm Marinaro.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. The Sick Podcast is brought to you by Energy Transportation Group, driven to be different. La Vida TB, embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination.